Morning, good afternoon, and welcome to the Data Platform Virtual Summit. I'm going to be with you today. My name is Gilbert, Quevauvilliers, and I'm going to be going through quicker, faster, easier Power BI datasets using Power BI Premium per user or Premium, depending on which one you like. As you know, this year these are going to be pre-recorded, so I'll be live in the chat when this presentation is being viewed. So if you have any questions while I am presenting, please put them in the comments or the questions area, and I'll be happy to answer them as best I can. So I'm very excited for today's session, and let's get into it. Firstly, for those who are new to the space or don't know anything about me, I am a data analytics consultant. I run my own consultancy called Full Move, which is based out of Australia on the Gold Coast. I'm a co-organizer of the Queensland Power BI user group. So one day when we're allowed to travel again, if you're ever in the Brisbane area, around the first week of every month, we have our presentation. So please have a look, pop in, and be happy to have you at our user group. Or you can look online at Meetup and see when our next user group is. I'm also fortunate to be a Microsoft MVP and very honored to have that. So in today's session, there's not a lot of slides, to be perfectly honest. There's going to be lots of demos and showing you how to do things quicker and faster. And in order to make things quicker and faster using Power BI and the associated tools, I'm going to step you through some of the tips and tricks that I use on a daily basis, which are Tabular Editor, the LLM Toolkit, and DAX Studio. And I'll be going through each one of these, showing you where to get it, what it looks like, and how best to use it, and how you can get these quicker, faster, and easier things. So my next couple of slides literally are the demos, and then I'll pop back in here at the end just to say thanks to our sponsors, which I should pretty much do from the beginning. So special thanks to Microsoft, to our sponsors, as well as for the people at the Data Platform Summit. They put a lot of time and a lot of effort to get this going. I've pretty much got the easy part, but I've just got to do one presentation. So thanks to them for putting this together and all the hard work that goes into it. Cool. So let's step into the next section, which is going through the quicker, faster, better for Power BI Premium per user and Premium. Cool. So let's get on to it. So what I'm going to first start with the Tabular Editor. And as you can see on my browser window, this is where you can go and get download Tabular Editor. There are two versions currently of Tabular Editor, Tabular Editor 3 and Tabular Editor 2. And if I just had to go over here on the downloads, you would see we have Tabular Editor 3, that's 64-bit, and a 32-bit version. There is still Tabular Editor 2, which is fully supported and open source. I'm fortunate enough, and in my daily day-to-day job, I use Tabular Editor 3 due to the additional functionality, and I'm going to go through and show you what those are today using Tabular Editor 3. So what Tabular Editor 3 is a lightweight, easy tool to use that allows you to do a lot more customizations and effects based on using your Power BI model. So what we have over here, just to start off with, is I have got a Power BI desktop model currently up and running. As you can see, if I just go through, just to show you quickly, it's got a date table, has some products, has a whole lot of sales information, different sales territories that belongs to, and some store information. This is your typical best practice fact and dimension tables. If I said to bring this in so you could see it a little bit better, you will now see, I have my fact table in the middle with my associated dimension tables. Let's bring that over here. So what I am going to be doing today is to show you how to use Tabular Editor and how it makes things quicker and easier to use. So in order to do it, there's multiple ways to do it, as always, and what I have got today is I've installed these options already in Power BI Desktop. And as you can see, I've got the Element Toolkit, DAX Studio, Tablet Editor, Tablet Editor 3, alphabetically done, not in any particular preference. So in order to start doing this, I'm going to open up the Tablet Editor 3. Hopefully it'll just open up in the right area. Cool. So now what you'll see is when Tablet Editor opens up, it always gives you a warning to say there are some experimental features you use at your own risk. Some things are supported and other things aren't. And I have had issues in the past where, for examples, I was trying to create roles in Tablet Editor, and as it stood of at that point in time, I actually broke my Power BI desktop model and I had to rebuild. So just be aware what I'm showing you today are things that are currently supported and will not break your desktop model. But as it says always here, make a backup before doing that, and I'd absolutely recommend that. You don't want to do a whole lot of work and effort and get there and then it's just broken and then you have to redo all the work. So let me just expand that so it's a little bit better. And as you can see over here, I've got my same details. So a quick explanation around what we have here in Tablet Editor. So as you can see, this is the default pane. This is all using Visual Studio. So people who are used to using Visual Studio, it's got the same look and feel, which makes things a lot easier and better to use. You can see over here, we've got the normal ribbon. If I wanted to, I could take this and drag it around. If I wanted to, it's going to pop back in there, or you could see we do it like that, which let me pop that on the bottom. Oh, wrong way around. Fun and games. Yeah, there we go. That's how I like to use it. But as always, you could change these around in terms of the look and feel, the left, the right, etc., which makes it a lot easier to use. We have then got over here, and I'm going to step through a whole lot of these, what these are, the view, the expressions, table, model, etc. So what we have over here, which they call the TOM Explorer, which is the Tablet Object Model Explorer, which is basically where they've taken the tablet object and created a copy of this, which is now exactly what you can see. So if you go under shared expressions, we have that in the menu roles, which we have created over here, as well as relationships. So this, if I had to switch back to over here, and I had to click on home as an example to show you the relationships, you would then see over here, I've got those 4 relationships. And if I go back to my tablet editor, I have got the same 4 relationships there. So then what you have, which I'll step through a little bit later, is best practice analyzer, data refresh, if you wanted to refresh this depending on how you're connecting, macros, which I'll go through. And then depending on what you click on, these property types will change over here. And this expression editor here, which is when you click on certain things, you will see it'll actually bring that up over here. Depending on what it is, it will understand that's an M expression and display that to you. So you do have other options here if you wanted to, where you could show hard measures. So if I wanted to only see measures, I could do something like that, where it would only show me, as you can see, the date table now has got no columns. All I could see is my measures. I typically have everything enabled. Just makes it easier for navigating through a tablet editor. And one thing with Tablet Editor 3, which is really handy, it has got messages over here, which basically give you warnings or errors, which I'll show you as I go through what those are and why using Tablet Editor 3 makes things so much easier and faster when you're building models and how to make that better. So let's get into it. So one of the things typically when you're creating a new model is you've got to start off by updating multiple columns, changing formatting, hiding, showing, and all of those kind of things. So while you can do this in desktop, all this you can do in Power BI Desktop, it's a lot quicker and a lot easier to use a tool like Tablet Editor. So as an example here, I'm going to go through to my date table. You can see I've got a whole lot of date columns here. Sometimes there's a lot more. And what I now want to do is, I know that this particular column here is my actual date table. this on the date table, this is the date column. If I just had to go back here, just to show you what that looks like, if I click on date and I expand, you can see that that is my date that I want to display to my users. So what I can do is I can just come here and tab the editor. I can just rename this to date. You'll see that I'll update. Then under format string, I actually don't want to use the general date. What I want to do is I actually want to use year, month. And what you'll now see is it actually shows you the example below. Because what could happen is if I go lowercase month, it sometimes works, or if I go lowercase, I might want it like that, but I'm just going to stick with the uppercase, and it gives me that exact example. Then what I want to do is now calendar year, I also want to just rename. I want to just make it year. Let's just go here, delete that so it's year. And the other thing I want to do is I want to make sure the summarize is set to none, because it's a calendar year, it's a number, and I don't want that number to basically summarize. Now what I want to do is I want to hide all the other columns that I don't want to be available. So in desktop, this could be quite time consuming. What I can do over here is I could click on the first one, hold down mouse select, so that all of those are selected, right click and go make invisible. As you can see, it's blanked out, or not, sorry, it's grayed out. And then I could come over here and there's a shortcut key, Control I, it's used quite often. So I'll go, okay, I'm quite happy with my date table. I think one other thing, let me just see here. No, that's all good. So I could come in here, and here you can see all the properties for the date, the lineage tags, etc. And that looks all good. Now what I can do is if I actually click save, you can see it's got a little asterisk on the top there. This is going to save this back to my desktop file. So I'm going to click save, and if I go back through to my desktop file, what you can now see has already happened is these are all hidden. And if I go back to over here and open up my date table and open up date as a table, you can now see it's formatted in the format that I wanted, as well as I've got year. Click on year, awesome. So what I then typically do is I would also save this desktop file, because while I've saved from tabular editor to the desktop has the changes, but they're not saved. So I always suggest save tabular editor, verify on the desktop, then go through and verify and save again, just to keep it, just to make sure you've consistently got it saved in case something happens to your desktop file. Okay, so the other thing we can also do, just like we've done for the date table, is we could go into measures, and as you can see over here, what I've got this little, might be quite difficult to see, but I've got a little yellow button on there. So if I click on that, what it is actually saying over here is it's saying this column references should always be qualified. So when you're creating creating a measure, you should always have the table name and then the column name. And that's what this warning is. It's not broken, but what I can do is I could then say sales. And the nice thing with tabular editor 3 over here, it has got IntelliSense. So if I do that, one of the things I also want to show is if I click on this and I click away, you'll now see that that'll change to red to show me that there's an error indicating that something's wrong, and a little error, so I can actually quickly see, oh, something's not quite right with my model. So if I go back here and I do that, this now says, now click off of that. Now I come back saying, yep, that's all good. So what I could then do is for all my sales amount measures here, I could once again actually select them all. I could then click on format string, and you can either type it in. Sometimes it'll, like over here, it'll allow you to type it in. It might not work. You might get some weird, as you can see over there. But what I can do, I want to make it custom. Let's just click format string, format over here, and I'm going to say make this a whole number, and I want the 1000 separators to be true. And as you can see, it's showing me what the format string is with the example. Once again, I can click on save, go back to my model over here, and let's just click on sales amount. You see I've currently got one date, but it's in the format that I wanted, which is awesome. So let me save that. So another thing you can also do, which is nice and easy in tablet editor, is you can create measures. So there's multiple ways to do it. I'm going to right click on create, and as you can see over here, you can say create measure, calculate column hierarchy, data column. The policy range partition is for incremental refreshing, which we won't go through today because that's a different topic. I'm going to say I want a new measure. It pops up with a new name, and I'm going to call this total rows. Oh, no. And as you can see, it brings it up over there. And now the nice thing with the IntelliSense is I can actually start going count rows, and it'll tell me what it expects. It expects a table, so I'm going to say I want to count row of sales, and I'm going to click save. Now once again, if I go through over here, there's my total rows, and as you can see, I haven't formatted it. So I look at this, I go, okay, measures there, that's good, but it's not formatted. Let me go back to my measure. Let's go format string. Let's go whole number. Save it, and already it's saved that back. Now you can see I've got that format string in there, which is awesome. Cool. So those are some of the things you can do with Tablet Editor with regards to tables, formatting, etc. That makes it a lot easier and a lot quicker to get that going. Likewise, I can see over here my sales table. Let's just clean that up quickly just to make it look a little bit better. I can go in here. I have all my measures, which you can see I've got the measures, and then I can go right. I actually don't want any of my keys to be visible, and I can just click save. And as you can now see, if I go back under sales, it's now actually said, oh look, it's like a measure table because there's no other columns that are available. So let me save that also. Cool. So now going on to something that might be a little bit more advanced, but there are lots of scripts and those kind of things what's available. So one of the awesome things with Tablet Editor is actually got a scripting language. That scripting language uses a combination of C# and the Tablet Object Model. And what that means is you can use scripting to create a whole lot of things for you. So basically, you don't have to try and do it yourself. There's scripts out there, and the scripts just mean it's almost like a function in Power Query where it can execute something for you over and over again, and you don't once you've got the script, you can just reuse it all the time. So what I'm going to do in here, I'm going to click on File, Open, and just click on File. And over here, I'm looking for Create Sum. So I'm going to open this up. There we go. We'll make it a bit bigger to see. What you can do, zoom in, zoom out. And pretty much what we have over here, and please, I'm no programmer, I'm no expert. I consider myself more of a bit of a hacker, but sometimes I can actually understand what this is actually doing. So what it's basically doing over here, it says create a sum for every measure selected and then hide the underlying column. So pretty much all it's doing here, it's saying for everything that's selected, create a new measure called sum of whatever the column name is, and then the DAX expression is sum whatever the full, and the reason it says DAX object full name is it's the table name plus the column name. The display folder, so let's just over here, let's just leave it set the format string with the ... The description is this is a measure of, and give the description name, and hide the base column is true. So that's pretty much all that it's actually going to do. So what I'm just going to do is, as an example here, if you can see, I'm going to select product key, sales territory, and store date. Okay, these are already hidden. What you now have is you've got this run script over here. So if I click on run script, what you'll now see is I selected those three tables, and you can now see I have got some of product key, some of sales territory, some of store date as it was selected, and it's put those in. It's defaulted it to, sorry, over here, let me go here. It's defaulted to a decimal number. It's given it the example, and literally I've created those things in a couple of seconds. It's done it all for me. I didn't have to do it manually. And if I click save and I go back to my model here, let's just expand. Let's just hide that one. Alright, there we go. Just expand this one a little bit. You can now see I've got store date key, self-territory key. As you can see, it doesn't have the formatting, and some of store date key, which is a big number. So let's just go over here because I want this, and I want to say use 1000 separator. I've selected all three of those again. Click save, and there we can see I have not got those coming through. Once again, I'm going to click save over here. So that's pretty cool, and that scripting language just makes things a lot easier and a lot quicker to use and to go through. Another cool script that I want to show is the formatting of all measures. So if I open up this one here, it's a lot simpler, and pretty much what this is doing is, you get the DAX formatter, which is great to format all your measures to make sure that they work, that they're easily readable in a consistent way. So if I go over here and I click on this one, you can see the spacing typically is not quite in there, etc. So what this does, again, it just says for each measure model.all measure, so basically all the models in the measure, take each one and format it as DAX. So all that I need to do is I come in here, I click run. You'll see this will take a little while. Depending on how many measures you have, it's actually going and executing this against DAX formatter. So sometimes you might need to be a little patient to get that done. But now, if I click back on this one, I go to expression editor, you can now see that there's that space that is being created. So once again, let's just save that. No, sorry, wrong one. Save that back, and that'll save back to Power BI Desktop. So once again, that is another cool little trick just to format. They're more, in the past you'd either have to go in, as an example, back in the day, I'd have to open up this one, go over here, copy, go to DAX formatter, paste, go to the next one, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and it can become quite a challenge. So by doing that, it takes a couple of seconds. You might have to wait a minute or two, but relative, it's actually going to take you almost no time to actually get that done. So the next one I wanted to show you, the last one, is how to create calculation groups with time intelligence. So this script is something that I searched for and I got. Let me just open that up for you. Let's just go over here. So now this script is not created by myself. As you can see over here, I think this is by Ben Aguirre. Sorry, Ben. Bruno Aguirre. Apologies if I have butchered your name. But thanks for the script. So what you can see over here, someone has spent a lot of time and a lot of effort putting this together. I'm not going to go through the whole script because it's pretty complex, and to be totally honest, as I said, I'm a hacker. I don't understand all of it. I understand a lot of it. But pretty much what you can do over here is a few little things if you read through the comments that you've got to do. You've just got to select which ones you want. You have to say what is your fact table name, what is your fact table date column key. So in my example, it's the date key, the date table name, and actually let's just go here. I renamed this one to year, make it a bit bigger. Apologies for that. And add measures and just showing, what do you want the flag expression and the labels to be. So let me just save the script, and you can just save them and you can keep this as a repository of your scripts to use again and again. So now what we need to do is, in order to create the time intelligence, is I should just be able to, if I click on, let's just go sales amount and total rows. Whoopsie. Sales amounts and total rows. I want time intelligence items to be associated to that. So I've selected those two. Now what I do, if I just minimize here, you can see there are currently not any calculation groups. Let's just click on sales amount and total rows again. I click run. You'll now see it's busy executing the script. And what you'll now see is I have a new time intelligence calculation group, which I literally ran a script for. And what you'll see it's now done is it's got the label as a format string, label as a value. And now if I go on the current year, what it's actually got is it's created the current year, previous year, year to date. It's created these for me with the click of a button. How cool is that? Like, this kind of stuff just blows my mind because it literally takes seconds to create and it's done. I don't have to recreate it, manually create it, etc. So quick, easy. So just to make sure it works, if I now click save, and I'll go back to my Power BI desktop row, I've got an option here because I've created a calculation group. I've got to click refresh now, and what you'll see over here is I have now got my time calculation. So if I go in here, actually let's just keep sales amount. Okay, time cal. What you will see it will do this, and the reason that these ones are previous year etc. are blank is because currently in my fact table, I'll just go on date. You'll now see, sorry, let me just get rid of that one. I've currently only got one date with regards to that. But trust me, this does work and it's awesome, and it'll save you a tremendous amount of time and effort. So that's another one where, just a click of a button, you can always go through this, change your code, give credit to the original author, and possibly update it and let them know. And that's pretty much gone through and created that for you. Once again, super quick, super awesome, and is really incredible. So the last section I wanted to just step through is the best practice analyzer. And this is another really handy, useful tool to use. And just to remind everyone, what I'm showing you in Tablet Editor 3, all this functionality, the scripting, the best practice analyzer, is all available in Tablet Editor 2. So it's not that you have to buy Tablet Editor 3. I'd highly recommend it. It's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of effort, as well as Daniel's put in a lot of time and effort to get this product up, and I've bought it, and I'd highly recommend other people to buy it too. So the last section I want to show is the best practice analyzer, which you can see over here looks blank at the current time. But in order to do that, what you need to do is, if you click on this option over here, you can see, well, that's too big. I need to get the best practice rules. So I'll click on add. I'll go include from URL. And what I'll actually do is I'm going to open this up. Did it open up? Let me just copy the hyperlink in here. And as you can see, Michael Quevauvilliers has, from the Power BI team, keeps on updating this. And what you'll see, if I click on the GitHub, I think there's actually a new version that's just been updated, which is 1.2.1. I think this got updated the other day. So in order to get that URL, if I click on the .json file and I click on raw, what you'll see, this is all the code. Once again, someone spent a lot of time and effort getting this done. But the great thing is, how can I utilize this? I'll just copy the URL. I'll go back to my best practice analyzer, include from URL. I'll just literally paste that in, click OK, and now you can see it's got all the rules that are added in here, and I can simply click OK. And now what you'll see on the right hand side is I have got all best practice analyzer, where it's basically said these are a whole lot of things that we've looked at and suggest that you at least have a look at. So what I'm going to do, let me just close some of these. So as an example, what I can do over here is, let's just go under formatting over here. What it's saying over here is these three columns provide a format string. So on date, essentially it's saying. So what I can do is I can right click, go to object, and what it will do will actually take me there and take me to that exact location. Another great thing you can also do in here is if I select all three, there's an option that says generate fixed script. So what that'll do, if I click on that, this is now using some more of that scripting language, and it's basically saying take this and format it in this format. You can almost see this one I have already formatted. So what I can do actually is I can just comment that out and say, okay, format these two in there, and just click run. And what you'll see as soon as I do that, the best practice analyzer says, yep, you can see the changes no longer there. I know, do not need to worry about that anymore. What I could do is say, okay, my date is in a different format. So what I can do is I can actually right click and just go ignore object. What it does, it says I've ignored that. I can show or hide it. And as you can see, it makes it really easy. I can just close that. I could also save this for future if I wanted to. I could just go file. Let's just go save as, and let's say format date columns with date type. .csx. Save that, and now let's save as a script. So do you want to save? I say no, thank you. And as you can see, there's a whole lot of options over here. You know, you've got some dash expressions, which is cool, a whole lot of different formatting, maintenance, some performance things, like for instance over here, this one should say your date should be marked as a date. So if I go over here, go to the objects, somewhere in here, I'm not quite sure where, something like that, I'd actually just go, I'll just save this for me. I'd actually just right click on the date table here and just go mark as date table. It's going to ask me which column. I set date. Okay, save that. And now if I come back in here and I go to best practice analyzer, there we go, refresh up. It hasn't come through, but that's okay. And right, as you can see, there's a whole lot of performance options which I would suggest looking at, because a lot of those formatting performance objects can make your models that much faster and quicker. So that's my introduction and showing you how to do things quicker and faster in Tablet Editor. In the next section, I'm going to go through to show you how to use the ALM toolkit. So let's step into that. Thanks. So now what I'm going to show you next is the ALM toolkit. So let me just open that up. So as you can see here, I have got my Power BI desktop model. And once again, this time I'm going to click on ALM toolkit. And I'm just going to cancel that initially. Let's make it bigger so it's easier to see. And what ALM toolkit is, it stands for Asset Lifecycle Management. And what it allows you to do is to compare between source and destination and how that all works. So the best way to actually show you this is, let me just compare two data sets. So as you can see over here, you get options to compare dataset, Power BI desktop files, or files. And I'm going to compare this to my premium per user workspace. Then I'm going to click OK. That's actually prompting me to log in. So as you can see here on the bottom, it is actually comparing the data sets, and this might take a little while to run, and that's coming through. Now the good thing is this actually highlights what the differences are and some of the options here. So what we have over here is you've got the compare, which is what you want to compare. You have select actions, which is if you want to hide skipped objects, show skipped objects, what you actually want to hide or show. You've got an option for validating the selection. which means the validation. I'll step through a little bit later and how that works. The important one here initially is options. So what you want to select over here, what I typically select when doing options, is to start off by saying if you want to include perspectives, you can enable that, or include cultures. I typically put on the include roles, and for role updates I say retain members. And the reason for that is if I don't have this ticked and I deploy a role and I've got user ABC, when this role gets redeployed, it will remove those users, and then those users will no longer have access. So it's very important to keep that going. Then also enable this tick for consider partitions when comparing data, especially when you are using incremental refresh. This just will consider those partitions. Otherwise, if you do not have that tick along with this one over here, for table updates, retain partitions, if you make a deployment change, those partitions will literally be blown away. And if it takes you a couple of days to actually get this going, it could be quite painful and a very hard conversation to have to say, that I need to reprocess the data. Also, to compare lineage tags, to retain the storage mode, and I always use the option to display warnings for measure dependencies. So if there is a measure where something's not quite right, it's really handy to show the warning. And then finally, under the database deployment options for processing, I always select do not process. I want to process those myself, but you might want to say when you deploy to recalc the default or to do a full process, and I'm going to click OK. So what happens is when you make those changes, you got to just do the comparison again. So I'm just going to run that. It shouldn't take too long to run. And it's busy running. And it's taking its time. It was quite quick the first time. This time it took a little bit longer, but hopefully there we go. Okay, so now that we have this up and running, what I can show you over here as an example is if I click on this expression, what you have on the left hand side is what it is an expression, a table, a measure, a relationship, what the source is. It's got a different definition and what the target is, and the current action is to update. And as you can see over here where it's got the data comparison, you can actually see what those differences are, which makes it a lot easier to decide is it something you want to deploy or something you don't want to deploy. So this example here, I could say skip, and that'll then skip that, and I could go through to the next one and say, okay, I now actually want to skip that one also. It's busy. It's already skipped, sorry. And for date, let's just say I want to skip that one. The great thing you can actually do over here also is I could multi-select, right click and say select all those objects. So let's go in here, let's skip all of those and skip all of those. So basically, currently what it's now saying is if I click on my date table, you can see it says different definitions, and as well as seeing it in the actual window, you'll see there's a little green bar here and a little red bar over here. So if I scroll down, I can see which sections it actually has got those differences in it. So what I'm going to do in this example, I'm not going to skip everything. Let's just say I'd only want to deploy this particular measure. It's giving me a hard time. Let's just go over here. Sorry, let me just go further down. Let's just say range in, and let's just say I want to update this one. So now what I can do is I can say hard skip objects, and this pretty much is showing me what am I going to deploy. So right now I'm only going to make this deployment. What I can then do is click on validate selection, and as you can see, there's 0 warnings, there's 1 information. I'll always double check the informational to make sure what I am going to deploy is only what I need to deploy. For instance, I don't want to say, oh, it's going to override all my partitions and I'm going to be in a world of hurt. I can then click OK. And the reason we have the validation is it makes sure it checks that everything's in place before it deploys it, just trying to avoid any issues or challenges that you might have. Or if you deploy a change and it's a breaking change, which can be quite a lot of work. Then you get the option to update, and what you can also do is, if I click on generate script, what this now will do is this will allow me to save this deployment script. So if I actually save that particular script, I'm just going to say overwrite that, and now if I just come in here quickly and open this up in edit pad, you will now see that this has got the full script. You can see to scroll down, there's 4,000 lines, and this is the deployment script that is actually going to be run. So you can save this if you want to save the script to know what the changes are, etc. Then if I just go back to my ALM toolkit, also have the option to report the differences. So what this is going to do is this is going to create an Excel report of what the differences are and what I'm actually deploying. So it takes a little while to run, it generates the report, and as you can see over here, this is showing me all the options and reporting the differences before I made the change. So if you have to click on here, you can see it's actually got all the details, the different definition, like over here for range, tells me what it was, what's the difference, and this is quite handy again if you want to just save those changes and actually have a report of what those changes were. So I'm just going to cancel that for now and just minimize that. And then now what I can do is, if I'm happy, I can click on update. And what you'll see is say, oh, you sure you want to update the target? I click yes. It will then go through and commit the changes, and it says it's deployed. So at this point in time, it's actually deployed. And will then prompt saying, do you want to refresh? I'm going to say no thanks, because I know that that is actually done. So that in ALM Toolkit, if I makes it really easy to do comparisons. The other thing I could actually do is, let me quickly open, I'm going to need it a little bit later anyway, when I go into Dax Studio. I'm going to open another PBIX file. This PBIX file has got a whole host, it's the same data set as you can see over there, it's actually just got a whole lot more data in it really. That's the only real difference, and it's got some of the other things. So if I just bring this into this window, you can now see I have got a lot more data. I don't have one date, I've got dates for a whole lot more. So going back to ALM Toolkit, some things you can also do is I can say I want to compare this Power BI desktop file to my completed desktop file. And as you can see, this will run a lot quicker because it's all local. And once again, I can have a look at the changes. I can see, oh, okay, these are actually the same, these are different. And I can see what I want to do. So as done before, I'm just going to say skip. Let's say skip that one. And again, I just want to make this change from my one PBIX file to my other PBIX file. I can invalidate the selection. So basically this is coming up with a warning saying it is unable to update it because this is not currently supported. So what I could actually do is, let's say skip that, say show skip objects. So something like total rows. Let's see if this will work in here. Let's say update that. Now I just want to update this measure, basically, and I'll click validate. You can now see that this is allowed to be updated. And if I wanted to, I could update or generate the script. So this is another little quick tip and quick tool with regards to getting changes made between PBIX files. So you could have a PBIX file in the service and one local, and you download the one from the service, and now you actually want to make those changes. So this makes it really quick and handy in order to quickly make those changes. So now I could just say validate. Oops, let's just go validate. Okay, go update. Again, it always prompts, but it's double check then not. Say yep, and the changes have been made. And again, that'll then come through and I'll say no, that's actually done. So that is LLM Toolkit. I pretty much use this on a daily basis when working with Premium and PPU, and it's a real game changer. It allows me to deploy granular changes at times to datasets when I don't have to go and upload the whole dataset, etc., like you would do with Pro or before this came along. So it really makes my life a lot quicker and a lot easier, and hopefully it'll help you too. Cool. So the final section I'm going to go through, which I spoke of earlier, is DAX Studio. So I'm just going to close this one down. Again, in this example, I'm going to use my computer data set. It's got a bit more data. It's a bit easier to show some of the features and things that I want to do. And like before this time, I'm going to click on DAX Studio. Take a while, it's busy opening, and there we go. So here we have DAX Studio. You can see it's busy connected. You can see over here it's connected to the local host. And a quick overview of what we have in the ribbon is we've got the option to run or clear the cache, different outputs, which I'll explain later, of your DAX queries. We've got the query builder, which I'll also explain a little bit later. We've got some of the default options, copy paste, DAX formatter, upper lower, comment on comment. We've got perf data, server timings, which I'll explain. If you want to connect to certain things, we can also do that there. And then under advanced, we've got import or exporting of the metrics, which I'll also go through, the exporting of data, running benchmarks, which I'll also go through. So this is pretty much DAX Studio. And what I find really good with DAX Studio is when you're looking to optimize queries, look at exporting data or what's taking up space. This is another great tool to have that just makes it so much quicker and easier to find out the information or to make tweaks to DAX measures and see what those direct results and impacts are of that. So one of the things I like to show is instead of actually having to write the DAX manually, which you can well do, I often find it's easier to get something to write it for you. So one of the ways to do that is if I go back to my Power BI desktop file over here, I click on View, and I click on Performance Analyzer, click on Start Recording. Now what you'll see is I get this little option over here, which says Analyze as Visual. If I click on that, what you'll see now under Table is I've actually got the option to copy the query. So essentially, Power BI Desktop has written the query for me. So if I copy that query, I'll go back to DAX Studio and I'll paste it in. This is the exact same query that is running from Power BI Desktop, and this sometimes is great because this is the exact same experience a user is going to have when they're going through and using the reports. So I find it really handy to actually have that. So what I can now do is if I click on Home, I can click on Run, and as you can see over here, the result sets look a little bit different, but it's actually got the same data and the same detail in there. So now if I'm starting to troubleshoot these kind of things and I want to see where it's fast, where it's slow, etc., I can do things like turn on server timings, and let me just click on that. And one of the things I forgot to also explain over here in the metadata, you've got your model, which you can see has got all the measures, etc., different functions, the DMVs, which is data management views if you want to find out certain information. And then in the output here, we've got the result, which basically is a log to say, yep, waiting for how long it took to run, rows returned, the actual result, which is the result set. Query history is if I wanted to see the query history, or if I had to double click, it'll bring back that particular query. And the one I've just enabled is the server timings. What I now could do is I could click on clear cache. If I go back here, you'll see, yep, it's actually cleared the cache, and I could then click on run. As you can see over here, it says the batch is completed. I can see the results. And if I go to server timings, and I get more information to quickly understand where is it spending. Oh, it's spending a lot of time in the storage engine, tiny bit amount of time in the format engine. And I could click on this and actually see the query that is actually being produced to that. So that makes it really handy to have a look and to see what is actually happening with DAX Studio and creating measures. There's also another great way to write queries without having to actually write them yourself. Again, you can definitely write this, but it takes a bit of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over here and say open a new query with the same connection. This time I'm going to click on Query Builder. And what we have over here is, as it says, drag output columns and measures over here and drag filters over here. So what I'm going to do in this example, I'm going to click on sales. I'm going to take my sales amount and drag it in there. Then under sales territory, I'm going to get the region and drag that in there. And for filters, I want to actually filter by group. So over here I want to say where contains Europe. Now what I do, if I actually click on run query, I can't. So the reason this hasn't brought back any results is I cannot spell. So let's try again. Europe. I click run query, and as you can see over here, I now have got those regions. If I wanted to, I could see if I'll make that blank, run it, and now you can see I have got all the regions, and then I could go back and put that in. The great thing you can do over here, I can actually click on edit query once again, and now what it's done is it's actually given me the query once again. I didn't have to write that query syntax, it has written it for me. I could then format it if I wanted to, long or the short line, depending on what I wanted to do, and then I now have this DAX query. Another great thing I can do over here is I could say, okay, I want to add a measure, and now what it does is it says what do you want to do. So I'm just going to call it rows, and I'm just going to do the same one as I did before, count rows. Nope, sales, like that. And then what I can do is click OK, and now you can see it's put that in there. Now if I run this, you'll see it's actually added in the rows to the results set. And if I edit the query, you can now see that it's actually added those rows in there. So if I just make this, short line, you can now see that I actually have my measures in there. So that's another way to very quickly and easily just go through, create measures, and see how that all works. The next section I want to show, which can save you a lot of time when you're trying to do performance tuning of the measures, is how fast is the measure, what are the improvements like, is it faster or is it slower. So what you can actually do, if you click under advanced, you've got this option here to run benchmark. So what this benchmark will do is, I'm just going to change to 3. This will run 3 cold caches and 3 warm caches. So what the difference is while that runs, a cold cache, what that actually do will delete all the cache out of your database. So if you are running this on a PPU instance in the Power BI service or premium capacity, just know that this will potentially clear the cache, and users might find some measures or reports a little bit slower until it builds that cache up. So ideally do this at a time when server's not busy, or you can do it on a non-production instance. So here we can see the results, and as you can see on a cold cache, the average query duration was just over 10 milliseconds. It's always in milliseconds, while on a warm cache, which means the data is using the existing cache, was only 3 milliseconds. And as you can see, this is a lot quicker and a lot easier to do these kind of things. You can make a tweak, rerun it, and see what the results are like. So using this makes it a lot easier and a lot better and quicker to get that done. And if you want to click on details, you can see each of them and exactly what was consuming up the space and all of those interesting facts. Another thing can do over here is, if I click on view metrics, this is another quick way for me to have a look at the data set and try and understand what's taking up all the memory. Sometimes this is fine, a lot of the times there are tweaks that can be made. The smaller the memory footprint, the faster things run, and especially when you get to large models, that can make a big difference. So what we have over here, we've got the tables, the columns, relationship, partitions, and the summary. So if I just expand cells over here, what you can see, my cells table, if I look here at the percentage of database space, is taking up 99.81%. So that's pretty much the whole model is using that, as well as my store date is taking up 89%. So for whatever reason I didn't need the store date, I could save a significant amount of memory just from deleting that. Then under columns, I could see all the columns pretty much by size to understand which one's taking up the most space. Under relationships, it shows you all the different relationships and the sizes. The great thing here is the missing keys and the invalid rows. I often use this just to see if my fact and dimension tables are missing any data. Under partitions, if you have multiple partitions, typically with incremental refresh, you will actually see these differences here. And if you had to connect to the Power BI service, which you can do with DAX Studio, to analysis of services, premium per user or premium, you'll then see those partitions. As well as a really interesting one here is under summary, is the total size. So this total size, as it says over here, is the amount of memory it's consuming. So for premium per user and premium, it's based not on the PBX file size, but how much memory it's actually consuming. So this is a great way to see how much memory your model is actually using. So this is great, especially when you're connecting to the service where you've got your incremental partitions completed, to actually see how much space or how much memory it is actually consuming. You can also, if you want to export the entire model, you can use export to CSV or SQL tables, and that will then take the data. That once in a while, but some people want to do it and export the actual data that you have. The last thing I want to show in DAX Studio, which is really handy and can save you sometimes a lot of time, is these output. So over here, you've got the standard, a timer, file, clipboard, a linked Excel static. So I'm just going to change this to file. And when I click on run, what it's now going to do, it's actually going to say, oh, you want to export this to CSV. As you can see over here, I'm just going to say export and save. And now if I show you over here, let's just open this up in Notepad, you will now see that it's actually exported that data. So that's another great way to quickly and easily export data from a potential query into a CSV file or Excel file that someone might be looking to use. Cool. And that wraps up my demos. I'll just go back to my presentation. So thanks for coming to my presentation. I hope you really found it handy. Special thanks to Microsoft for supporting the Data Platform Summit, as well as all the other attendees and initiatives done by this Data Platform Summit. Thanks to them and all their hard work. And finally, if I can click on the slide, there's 3 ways to win prizes. So post your selfie with the hashtag DPS2021 and please give us your feedback. It's always good or bad feedback. It's always good feedback to me. Please visit our sponsors and exhibitions and follow us on Twitter at the Data Geeks and the Data AI Summit. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. So thanks a lot and we'll see you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, morning. See ya. Bye.